Hello, welcome to Retrospection, a nostalgic look at past film and TV. My name's Colin.
My name's Paul.
In this special episode, we're very lucky to be joined by Judy Matheson, an actor known and beloved by film fans the world over.
Judy has starred in films like The Exquisite Cadaver, Lust for a Vampire, and Twins of Evil.
And she also appears in episodes of The Professionals, The Sweeney and Blake 7. We join our conversation just after Paul has asked how she is faring in lockdown.
Well, it's been frustrating, like everything. I'm really lucky. My situation is really lucky. I've got a garden, I've got a house, I've got family with me, but it's frustrating, It's just frustrating not being able to... I feel awful saying it because people are so badly off, but I feel bad not having any fun, really. Not putting on the red lipstick and going out.
That's the thing, that you can't go anywhere because there's nowhere to go. Even if you're allowed out of the house, there's nowhere to go.
No, even if you do put the high heels on the red lipstick, there's nowhere to go.
So thank you for agreeing to do this. As I was saying, I was afraid to tell you that we hadn't interviewed anyone before in case it put you off.
No, it won't put me off.
Are you happy just to get straight into it? Or...
Definitely. This is a bit like, I don't know if you've seen any of those lockdown programs like Have I Got News for You? Because it's all a bit, you have to wait for somebody else to do the chuckling, or you have to wait to see if they've finished and you're not quite sure. I'm glad this is not a Zoom one, I must say, because I think that could be very awkward.
Yeah.
Well, like the Russell Harty thing and Have I Got News for You? And they're all doing it on Zoom. And it's all incredibly awkward.
Yeah, and I've also discovered that one thing we've noticed is that celebrities and comedians, they really need to improve their internet connections.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But also just hearing them laugh at their own jokes and nobody else laughing, it's a sad situation.
Yeah.
Hopefully it won't go on for too much longer.
No, that's true. London's doing quite well now, I believe.
It seems to be, yeah. I mean, I'm quite close to London. I'm in Reading. On the streets, people seem to be walking around, obviously social distancing, but it does seem to be getting a little bit back to normal. But that is worrying in itself, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that is worrying. That's really worrying. One of the things that I do is walking. Obviously, that's the only thing you can really do. And I live very near Hampstead Heath. But it's very alarming going for walking on Hampstead Heath because it is so crowded and so many people running, so many bicycles, so many family groups, not even family groups, but people not really taking notice of this distancing thing. So it can be a walk becomes quite an anxiety trip, really.
You need to take a big stick with you, Judy.
I thought of that. A big stick and stick it out 2 meters long. I have actually thought of that. I did think of that.
It's worth a try.
Yeah. I might get violent with it. Especially with the joggers. Don't get me started on those joggers that just run by, everything coming out of every orifice, and they don't bother to make any sort of distance at all because they think it's fine, they'll be gone in a minute, which could be true, but then you're left in the plume of their excretions, which is not attractive.
You don't want to be in their wake, do you?
No, exactly so. No, that's right.
I don't actually want to see you get angry because I've seen you get violent in your movies, Judy, and it's quite something to see. So,
oh, those are the best bits. Those are really the best bits, getting angry. I mean, yes, I'm looking back over, and I've done 1 or 2 interviews, of course, in the last few years. And looking back, I too many times I was the good girl, and it's not really what I like to do. I quite like to be the bad girl.
You do that very well, as I'll mention as we go through all the many things that you've done. But what was it that drew you into acting in the first place?
Well, I think I fell into it a bit. I did it a lot at school. We had a rather weird thing. I went to a girls' high school, and we had a rather weird thing called elocution lessons. And you'd be taken out of lessons in a group, and you'd do drama. And we did lots and lots of sort of drama exams during my high school, Lambda exams and reciting things, and we did school plays. So it came from that. And then I went to a college that my elocution teacher, such a weird word, that elocution, especially as I spoke like this anyway, so I really didn't need any correction. And she knew a new college that was opening up. In fact, it was called the New College, and it used to be the drama school of the Royal Academy of Music, so it was quite posh. But they were starting up a branch of drama for the Royal Academy of Music. And I don't think I've ever said this to anybody before, but we were in about the second year of it, the new, and it was that's what it was. It also gave you a teaching degree. So I'm qualified teacher, which is rather odd, because the Essex County Council. I came from Essex. I'm an Essex girl, and they would only give you a grant. We all had scholarships and grants in those days, unlike the kids today, which is very, very different. But they gave you a scholarship if you'd get a qualification like a teaching degree. And there were two drama schools in London that did that. One of them still goes, I think, Rose Bruford. The one I was in, the Royal Academy of Music's drama section, got subsumed into Middlesex University, I believe, after we left.
Was that something that you ever thought of doing, the teaching side of it?
Well, I went through the college 3 years, not quite knowing what I was going to do. There was a sort of division in our college. There were the ones that were definitely going to be actors, and that was quite a small group. And the rest of them actually all did want to be teachers of English and drama. And there was and I was in the middle. I wasn't quite sure. I always had what everybody now refers to, and it's so accurate. I always had a slight imposter syndrome, in as far as I thought perhaps I shouldn't be acting in the early days. I thought maybe, I'd fallen into everything, had been too lucky. And you may have read, but I was at college with a couple of really, really good actors, Helen Mirren and Paul Freeman, and they were definitely always going to be acting, and they were both spectacular all the way through college. And I think I did feel I perhaps wouldn't be as successful an actor as them. But actually I was really, really lucky, because what you did when you finished college is right round to the reps. The reps in those days were wonderful. They could give, I think, something like 10 or 15 new equity cards a year. And I was unbelievably lucky, because I got into the Bristol Old Vic, which was the top repertory company at the time. And so I just sort of went from there. And everybody else in the company, all the young people in the company, had all gone to the Bristol Old Vic theatre school, and they were all very dedicated actors, and they were all very intense. They became my very, very good friends, actually, obviously. But at the first, they were all unbelievably intense into serious method acting, really. And I was confused. I was quite confused whether I should be there or not. And the phrase which I think is so accurate, is this imposter syndrome. I kept thinking, I don't fit in. But actually, I did. And I've been really lucky throughout my career. So I took off. But it was a bit by accident.
Was it just a case that I'll just keep going, and the longer that you kept going, the more you realised that it was for you? Well,
yes, but actually the longer I kept going, the more I kept getting jobs, really. People get given me jobs. And I got a really, really good agent, through somebody who was at Bristol Old Vic with me, an actress called Janet Key, who was a fabulous actress. And she got this wonderful agent in central London, who was quite the best, I think, agent for young people. The role list of, her name was Hazel Malone Management, and the role list of people was extraordinary that she had at the time. People like Judy Matheson, Malcolm McDowell, Richard O'Sullivan, all sorts of people. She had so many people, and I was lucky to, again, it was all luck as far as I can tell.
It's a good company to be in there.
Amazing. So you pop into the office to speak to Hazel, the agent. You pop into the office, and there would be, some big star there. There'd be Malcolm McDowell discussing, how he was going to be working for Kubrick and things. So it was all quite glamorous, and it was, of course, what it was. It was the 60s. So to be a drama student, and then an actress in the 60s and the early 70s, I mean, I couldn't think of a better life, really.
And you did some amazing tours with the theatre company as well, didn't you? You toured Europe, Israel, and you even did Broadway at one point.
We did. Well, that was at first. That's how I got the job. Actually, they decided they needed another young actress to do bits and understudying, and that's how I got the job. I went down to Bristol, forced down there by my father, who said, "You've got to give it a go," when I was invited to go. And they invited me to stay on, and we went to America first, all over America. We flew to America, did 3 weeks on Broadway, went to Los Angeles, San Francisco, went everywhere, and that was an amazing experience, absolutely amazing. And then we went to Europe later, and then Israel, which was sensational, really.
So can I ask how old you were at that point?
I was 21.
So that must have been amazing for a 21-year-old to be.
21. Had to work it out. Went to college at 18, and it was a 3-year course. It was my first job. Yes. It was amazing. One of the great things about it was being one of the younger cast members, because we weren't doing very much. We were understudying, really, and we were walking on and being courtiers. And funnily enough, the very, very first thing I did that I got paid for professionally was running on the stage on my own in Romeo and Juliet, setting the scene, running along the back ramparts when the curtain went up, running along and screaming. And the director said to me, "Can you scream, Judy?" And I sort of said yes and gave it a go. And then that's what I was doing throughout the run, along with a lot of other things. But the first thing I ever did professionally was scream on stage, which was ironic considering the label that I still have.
All that work in the theatre, though, and all those tours must have really set you in good stead for sharing the screen with Gregory Peck in The Chairman.
That was something and nothing, except, of course, it wasn't, because it was pretty, wonderful to be in the same room. That's what I always say. Funnily enough, Janet Key and me, we were sent along by Hazel. We weren't auditioned. And I think Lee, J. Lee Thompson had just said, he wanted some students. He wanted 2 students to have a couple of lines. It was in a lecture hall. It was in a lecture room, and just ask questions, really, of Anne Haywood, in fact, who was the lecturer. And so we went along, and it was just a day's filming in this lecture room. And so we didn't audition, and it wasn't really a part. It was a glorified extra. But in he walked, this man, Gregory Peck. And I mean, really, it was, I'm not easily starstruck, but I was very starstruck by him. He was beautiful to look at. And for a sort of actor, he was very interesting to watch, because he's always thought to be quite the same, but he never was. He did several different takes, and he was different in every one. He was remarkable. He was really remarkable. And I don't know I recently, a wonderful young lady called Hannah Brooks, who runs a Facebook fan page for the Vampire Lovers. She discovered on eBay, I think, a still that I'd never seen. This was about a month ago, a still that I'd never seen of Gregory Peck and me and a couple of other people, students, and I'd never seen it. And I'd never seen it before. And I almost couldn't remember him coming round the back and talking to us as in that still. Yes, I actually bought it. I bought it off eBay. I had to have it. It's now been framed, not framed, but it's put behind glass in my sitting room.
Very nice.
Wonderful. You your own still.
No, quite. One that I didn't know existed. I don't know where it came from. I've never seen any. Yeah, it was exciting. just 4 weeks ago.
Well, Colin was hoping to actually see The Chairman just before the interview. He's just bought it on Blu-ray, haven't you? But it hasn't turned up in time. So.
Yeah,
Colin, you wouldn't see it. You honestly wouldn't see it. Because it's just a flash in the pan. I mean, you can't see it really at all. Our bit was cut. Our little bit, Janet Key and me and the other students, it was cut. But interesting enough, just quickly, it's not very interesting. I keep saying interesting enough and being really boring. But what I will say to you is that I did a stint, quite a big stint actually, which presumably we might chat about later, as a continuity announcer. And in the Television South, in the ITV studios, you had to, all the presentation people, the people pushing all the buttons, had to preview every movie that went out. And, for various things, including, I suppose, some sort of censorship. And suddenly I got a call when I was on duty in my little studio. I got a call, "Judy, come and see this." And they'd been running through The Chairman, and they said, "Is this you?" And they managed to stop it and see me in my funny little yellow shirt that I wore. And I said, "God, yes, I've never seen that. I didn't know that existed." But there it was. But I'm sorry, Colin. I mean, if you're looking for me, you would be, you won't see it.
Well, I'll know you there. That's enough.
Yeah, you'll know I'm there. That's the main thing. There is actually some very, very nice young man in America has made a sort of compilation of several of my and all separately. And he's done one of the chairmen. So he's put my little bits of the chairman, which don't really exist, but he's put them together in a little tiny YouTube thing, I think.
Ah.
That's lovely. And something that you did around that time as well was the emergence of Anthony Purdy Esquire. Now, this really intrigues me because I can't find a copy of it anywhere. And it sounds amazing.
It was amazing, actually. That was something I got in Hazel's, my management's office. Up came Patrick Dromgoole. He was actually a director of Harlech Television, but he was a fantastic director. And he did a lot of wonderful things. And he also worked a lot with Freddie Jones, and he worked a lot with Charles Wood, that amazing writer, Charles Wood. Mm-hmm. Charles Wood wrote this. It was a sort of curiosity, really, a little film, and Freddie Jones was playing a farmer's labourer, and the story was just that his mother and his sister were getting very fed up with him because he was like in his 40s and he needed really a woman because he was very frustrated, and he was a farmer's labourer and goodness knows what he was getting up to. So they went to the local gypsy camp and chose a young lady, which was me. So it was a very, very curious thing to do. It was a wonderful thing to do. Still, very much so in retrospect, one of my most favourite things I ever did. I had to do a Somerset accent. I worked with Freddie Jones very closely in it, and it was brilliant. I mean, it was brilliant. And you can't get it, but I have got a copy of it, which I got from somewhere, not Harlech Television, but I think I'm trying to remember who. It's a museum and an archive museum down in Wales, and a very nice man sent me a copy on if I said it, I wasn't going to put it out anywhere. It wasn't for publication, as it were. Interesting enough, when Freddie died quite recently, the director, Patrick Dromgoole's daughter, contacted me. She works for the BBC, and she said, "You don't by any chance have a copy of The Emergence of Anthony Purdy?" And I said, "Yes, I do, but I'm not supposed to let it go." She said, "Oh, but Freddie's family really, really want to see it." So I gave her the copy. She made several copies for Freddie's family, and then she gave it back to me. So there are a few copies floating around.
I'd love to see it one day.
No, yes, quite. It's very strange. It's very strange, and it's rather weird because it's in black and white and it's quite short. I think it's about 40 minutes.
I've seen many stills from it, and it looks fascinating.
It absolutely was and is. I'm not sure. Yes, it's very strange to watch. Everybody sort of talk. It was muddy and dirty, and yeah, it was wonderful to do. Definitely one of my favourite things. And I got to know incredibly well. I mean, we were very close. We spent a lot of time together. He was fascinating.
I've heard lots of stories that he was extremely a nice man to work with.
Yeah, interesting too. Yeah, and intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main question is, though, really, Judy, can you still do the accent?
It was probably all those years ago, and I was very young. It was probably very much a mama set one, It was. When I think back on it, it wouldn't have been particularly accurate, and probably would have really upset everybody who lived in Somerset. But it was very easy to do because you're working with such good actors. Daphne Hurd was my mother. There were various actors in it that were very, very fine actors. And Freddie Jones, of course, did a perfect accent. So it wasn't really that. And we were doing it in a farm, filming it in a farm in Somerset. So it was all around you. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't that difficult, but in retrospect, it was probably not that good, but it was good enough.
I'm sure it was fantastic. After that, you went to Spain and made the Exquisite Cadaver.
Now, discussing my career with you like this, it's downhill all the way after these things. As I did, I was chosen to go to Spain. It was wonderful, another amazing experience. And with another amazing director and an amazing cinematographer. They both came over. The cinematographer, who is very classy amongst cognoscenti, his name's Fernando Arribas, and Vicente Aranda were the directors. They came over and they saw lots and lots of girls, and I'll never quite know why, but I got the part. And I spent a lot of time in Spain filming that, because you went over there to do costume fittings and makeup tests, and then filming it. And then afterwards it was shown in the San Sebastian Film Festival. So that was quite a big deal at the time. So yes, that was all very starry. I actually really thought my career was going to be just living like this, cars picking you up and, being pampered.
Well, you won the part from over 500 other hopefuls, didn't you?
That's really gone up in numbers.
Does it go up?
I don't know where the 500. I had it originally down in my head. I mean, I know it. I was told at the time it was 200, but it probably wasn't 200. He probably just looked through photographs first of all. And then chose, normally they would choose maybe 10, maybe to meet and chat to. And I didn't actually have to read for it at all. And in fact, I never read the script, I've just realized. I mean, I'm talking to you about it. I never read the script before I got to Spain. It was outlined to me, and that was it. And I did get chosen, and I do think it's a bit weird in retrospect. I'm still suffering, as you can tell, from imposter syndrome.
So that's why you think it's a bit weird. It's because you didn't feel like you deserved the part, or?
Well, no, I mean, I did at the time. I've taken it all for granted. I was just a jobbing actress,
right,
going from one thing to another. I was really, really lucky to be very rarely out of work. And, I took it for granted, really. And I just thought it was normal life, really. That's what you did.
Mm.
Go with the 500 figure, Judy. It sounds better.
Yeah, it's inflation anyway.
I don't think so. In fact, funnily enough, I've just been in touch. Somebody's put me in touch with, for the first time in 40 years, or however many years it is, with the cinematographer Fernando Rivas. I've had several emails from him, and I think he'd be horrified to hear that I was saying 500, because he was the one that came over, and he would have interviewed them. I don't know how many he interviewed, but certainly the director interviewed. But I was told, I think, also the other thing is about it's gone up to 500 from 200. But the other thing with Hazel Malone is she was absolutely wonderful and really successful, but she definitely exaggerates all the time. She definitely say, "Oh, darling, you've been chosen for this commercial, and they've seen 300 people for it, and you'd never," and probably they hadn't at all. And she'd make you feel good by doing that. So actually, who knows?
Speaking of the director, am I right in thinking that you were kind of put through the ringer on that film as well, weren't you? Was it quite a difficult shoot? I hear that the director had an accident.
He did. I didn't. I wasn't. I did. I mean, I loved every minute of it. I was oblivious to it, but he did have an accident, and I have read subsequently about the problems Vicente had with the producers, Sidney Pink and another one, American, and I've read much more about it, of the difficulty he had. He had the rights taken away from him, but I knew nothing of that. It's a bit like later on when we touch on Lust for a Vampire, same sort of thing was going on. A very, very difficult time was going on. But if you're just an actress there, I was oblivious to it all. Obviously, I wasn't oblivious to Vicente on his stretcher, because he was filming from his stretcher. But he was lovely, and it was all dealt with terribly well, and he was carried backwards and forwards. It wasn't for the whole shoot; it was for some of it. He was on a stretcher. I've actually put out a photograph of the little snap that I took with my Brownie camera of him on his stretcher. But it didn't seem to impinge on my enjoyment.
It's a wonderful film. It's got a great otherworldly feel to it, and I think a lot of that comes from your performance.
Thank you. I actually do think it's a wonderful film in retrospect, especially as I've spoken to some people like you, actually, Paul, who actually do say that there's a lot of appreciation for it now, which I'm really gratified by, I must say. And I've seen it much more recently, and it's weird. I mean, I can understand that people might find it a little bit full of longueurs, because it is one of those moody things, but you just have to go with it.
No. I think it's a fascinating film, and I think, as I say, a lot of it comes from your performance. And for example, just off the top of my head, the scene in the little cafe, with the long pauses between you're the dialogue, and you're just looking at each other, and you're playing with the little things on the table. It's a fascinating film.
Oh, it's so nice of you to say that, Paul. I'm so glad. I do think it's an acquired taste, but I sort of agree with you. I think it is. It is. It was lovely to do. I mean, I was quite involved with it. I was quite involved with doing it, and that's why it didn't seem. Though it's funny you should say I was put through the ringer, because I've only just remembered that I think I was called back. I think the producers decided it wasn't sexy enough, and I think I finished the film, and I think I had to go back to do more nudity, in fact. And I've only just remembered that talking to you, Paul. And I think that was a bit stressful, but I don't remember it. I tend to blot out anything very difficult. I loved working with those guys. I loved working with Carlos Estrada, another guy I got on really, really well with. We had huge sort of rapport and fun. And Kat Pacine, I'm sure you've read that, thought she was just the most amazing woman I've ever met. I mean, the most beautiful woman without a doubt, and entirely interesting and fascinating. So, and I was still very young, and I was, working with these amazing people. Thank you for what you said about it. I really appreciate that.
That's okay. You're only a few roles in at this point in your career, and you've already established yourself as someone who'll take risks in the kind of projects that you do. Was that an intentional thing?
Not at all. No, not at all. No, jobbing actress again. That has to come up. You just got you were just offered things. You went for things. You were auditioned for things, and you an awful lot you didn't get. Some you were offered, and then you decided to do it with chatting to your agent about it, and you decide to do it. So there was no plan. But it's funny again, Paul, you should say that, because there've been a few things written. There's a lovely guy who's a professor in New Zealand, has written the most wonderful thing about lots of things. He's a wonderful writer, actually. But anyway, about my career, and also with the homosexual side to my career. Because there seemed to be a lot of women together, and my sexuality, really. And that had never really occurred to me. There was no plan. There is no plan. I think unless you're a very famous and successful actor where you're turning down scripts, there isn't really a plan. You just work, you just go where the work goes.
Because the next two films that you did were the Hammer movies, Twins of Evil and Lust for a Vampire. Was that how that happened then? It was just a case of you going for the part and getting the part?
I'm glad you've got my CV down, because the order of it. Yes, exactly that. I believe, I'm not sure if I wasn't in Spain or something, but I did have an availability check, because Hazel, my agent, said you've had an availability check for the Vampire Lovers, but you can't do it. It's part of a trilogy. But maybe, she said, they'll ask you for the second thing, and they did. So I went to see the producers, curiously enough, not John Huff. He wasn't at the audition, but I saw the producers, and then I got that part. Yes, I got that part. And then they asked me back for Twins of Evil, because I think, I knew my lines, such as it was. I don't think there was hardly any line in Lust for a Vampire. But, you turn up on time, you do what you're supposed to do. And they ask you back for efficiency. They were good like that, Hammer. They had quite a sort of little repertory going, didn't they?
I've read lots of stories that Hammer was very much a kind of a family atmosphere.
Especially with the sort of smaller parts. I think about my wonderful friend Luann Peters was in several of them. Pippa Steele, Kirsten Lindholm, all the small part players, just very much like a repertory company, really. They were all asked back. So they were very loyal in that sense, and I think they were a joy to work for.
You mentioned earlier about the difficulties on set with Twins of Evil that were going on in the background that you weren't necessarily privileged to. Did it not affect anything that was happening on set at all?
Not as far as I was concerned. No, not at all. I was surprised to read about it actually afterwards. I must say I was very surprised to read Ralph Bates. I think he said it was the worst film he'd ever made or something, which of course it isn't. It's just not
at all. No.
And I think I do think there seems to be a sense of humour failure there, which is curious because he had a wonderful sense of humour, and Michael Johnson too, and Jimmy too. They all got on really well. They were very funny. The girls got on really well. All the schoolgirls. I mean, it was just fun. It was a wonderful, wonderful weather. Wonderful costumes, wonderful hair, everybody giggling all the time. And what's not to like, really? Yeah, I think we were just shooting for about 6 weeks, and it was huge fun.
They are two of my favourite Hammer films, particularly Lust for a Vampire. I do remember getting the name wrong in a tweet once, and you correcting me the next day.
Really?
I think. Yes, this was last year. I said that I was watching The Vampire Lovers with the great Judy Matheson, and you corrected me the next day.
Well, that's nice of you to mention me.
I think I was drinking a little bit of wine that night, and you shouldn't tweet when you're drinking wine.
No, that's something I've learned. That is a lesson for me. I still haven't actually learned it. Times when I do it, I think you just have to look at the time when these tweets go out and see. They go out.
I think that's what you said to me. I think that's kind of what you said to me the next day, actually.
Oh, yeah, it's quite likely. Very, very likely, yes. I'm glad it's your favourite. That, again, it's an acquired taste, I must say. I mean, some people hate it. There's a group of, I won't mention the names because some of them are friends of mine or people I know quite well. There's a group on Facebook that definitely do not like Lust for a Vampire and hardly want to hear. And I hope they hear this because they'll know who I'm talking about. They hardly want to hear the name because it's just considered. It's considered definitely not a good one. But I think there's like a sense of humour failure there. I always think of it as sort of Disney-fied Hammer film. It's so beautiful and it's sort of vaguely jokey and
it's got a song montage in the middle.
Song is definitely acquired taste, Paul, isn't it? But that helps it. That helps the Disney-ish thing about it. Suddenly having a rather daft song coming on is rather wonderful.
It's like an earworm. I watched the movie the other day again, and when you hear that song, you can't get it out of your head for days. It's just it sits there in your head.
Well, that's clever. It's very clever. I can't remember it actually, but as soon as I finish this, I'll go and listen and see.
But you don't need to. It's
no, maybe I don't need to.
Your scene in Twins of Evil, was that a difficult scene to film? Being stuck to the stake with fire all around you, or were you perfectly safe? Did you feel perfectly safe?
Yes, I did feel perfectly safe, and various people have said, there were flames. There were proper flames and things. There was no CGI or anything, and I did feel safe. And I can't remember why. I mean, it just all seemed fine. It was, to a certain extent, I think after the imposter syndrome passed. I did, and I have in my past taken my work, the acting, pretty seriously, and it was a wonderful little scene to do with a wonderful, wonderful actor, and I was really into it. So I mean, if I was a bit scared or a bit frightened, I was certainly it was easy to act frightened with Peter Cushing.
Kind of ironic for such a nice man.
Yeah, but he was a great actor, and that's what was so impressive because he was so gentle and quiet-spoken and just lovely to be with, on the set when we weren't working. But like all the great actors, it's very easy to give yourself up to the work when you're working with a wonderful actor. I worked with some wonderful actors, Freddie Jones, as we were touching on earlier. Those guys, Peter Cushing, wonderful to work with because you were really in the moment because they were.
Yeah, I can believe that completely with Peter Cushing. He's one of my all-time favourite actors.
Brilliant, but also lovely.
There's a couple of times you said this, that the actors around you, if they're at the top of their game and good at their performance, they make you a better performer too.
That's exactly right. I think that is also exactly so on stage as well, in fact. With all the great actors, they're so much better when they're with other great actors. And I mean, it's exactly right. Just to go onto the stage, working with Richard O'Sullivan and Eutha Joyce, night after night after night in 2 national tours, every single night was a joy working with those actors because they were so brilliant. I think it's the same. I think that's the craft of acting is playing off other people, really.
So you're constantly learning.
Yeah, picking up atmosphere and picking it all up. And Peter Cushing was absolutely terrifying. And it was almost, if anything, more terrifying because he had been this gentle, quietly spoken, and recently bereaved, as I'm sure you know. So he was, quite delicate. You had to be quite delicate about around him, even though he was incredibly nice to me. But then when he suddenly appears in that doorway and then he pulls the cross off and things, I mean, it just wasn't hard to be pretty terrified.
I can imagine. And this is a kind of tongue-in-cheek question, and I'm sure you'll get it, Julie, when I ask you. But was he more or less terrifying than working with Mike Raven?
Mike Raven wasn't terrifying at all. No, he wasn't terrifying at all. I mean, you've got the vast difference in talent there, haven't you? He was never, ever, ever frightening, Mike Raven. But then I don't think in my scenes with Mike Raven, I really enjoyed doing that film a lot. I don't think he was
Crucible of Terror.
Yeah, Crucible of Terror. I mean, I think Mary Maud had more reason to be frightened of him. I mean, in performance. I didn't have to be. There was no acting of me being frightened of him. I was his girlfriend, wasn't I? I was angry with him, I think.
I think that Marcia is the real villain of the piece, not Mike Raven's character.
She is. I mean, that's exactly right. That's why it was a nice part to do. It was a very, very nice part to do. Well, I like those are the sort of things I like to do, really.
Well, I love the scene around because it's a very predatory character that you play, and I love the scene around the breakfast table where you don't really have any dialogue. You're just kind of sat there looking at everyone and just sort of smirking to yourself. You obviously think of them as idiots.
Yeah, exactly. To tell you the truth, I haven't seen it for a long time, but I've seen some stills from that, which I think sort of do indicate that. I haven't seen the actual film for quite a long while. I know it's around, but I haven't looked at it. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think she was a good character to play. She was the harder number. There were three of us young women there, and I actually think I had the best part. Don't tell me.
Was it difficult? You did have the best part. Was it difficult to do the scene where you're throwing the rocks at Ronald Lacey? Because that's quite cold.
That's had quite a lot of derision. It has had quite a lot of derision, and the actual shame, the way I'm not a sportswoman at all. I think that loads of people have laughed at that scene. No, it wasn't difficult. I just couldn't throw very well. I think the actual rocks that got thrown and landed on Ronnie were thrown by the assistant director, I think. And I was doing those feeble little throws that I know that people have laughed at, and I think it was quite difficult throwing stones and trying to make it look lethal. Which it was.
I've never noticed that before. I'll have to go back and look now at your throwing skills.
Yeah, no, don't bother. Give it a miss.
Okay. And then you did the Flesh and Blood show, which I think is a fantastic little. I don't think it's horror. I don't really think of it as a horror movie. I think it more as a thriller. It's kind of a whodunit, really.
It is a whodunit, isn't it? Yes, it is a whodunit. You saw it the other day, didn't you?
Did indeed, yes.
Yeah, doing your research.
I was, yes.
Yeah, that was a very. I enjoyed that. I enjoy all the stuff that I do. It's great fun being on any old film set and things. But I think the part was pretty nothingy, wasn't it? It was one of the very few things that I survived in.
I was watching it with my wife, and I turned to my wife at the end, and I said, "See, she survived this one."
Yeah, no, I think so. I think that was one of the few. Yeah, I think it was not a terribly interesting part, particularly as opposed to Marcia and Crucible of Terror. It was pretty dull. I think Robin Asquith also. I think we neither of us had very interesting parts in that.
Mm-hmm. Of course, you worked with Robin Asquith again a little while later when you did Confessions of a Window Cleaner, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Did that come later? I can't. You have to look. I haven't come later. You see, he was one of the guys. He was one of the guys with Hazel Malone Management, and I'd worked with him before on a corporate video actually with Robin Stewart and another young lady. I can't remember. He remembers far more about everything than I do. we would do a corporate video for I can't remember what it was for. So because we'd just gone along and done that, I knew him from being with Hazel Malone Management. So I knew him a little bit, not very well, but yeah, there we are. We were a little bit. I actually was going, as you do in lockdown. I was turning out a whole pile of stuff and found a very old address book, which was terribly intriguing to me. It had things like Capucine's phone number in Lausanne and things like that. And it had lots of interesting things, but it also had Robin's number in it. So I sent him a picture of it and said, look what I've just found. And he remembered where he was, which place it was. It was a flat in, I think, in St. John's Wood. And he said, why is it in black biro and everybody else is in blue? Well, I didn't have an answer for that. So we must have mixed in the same circles at some stage. I think I went to a few parties at his flat.
He seems like he was probably a very fun person to be around.
He is a fun person to be around. I actually think he's, I hesitate to say this because does he need to know this, again, but I think he's a very, very clever actor, in fact. I think the stuff he did in Confessions is terribly difficult to do, that sort of light comedy, and I think he does it all terribly well. And he's very lively and on the ball. And I think I've said it before, and as I say, I hesitate to say this because he really doesn't need any more praise in his life. But he is he's underrated. He's done a lot of brilliant work.
Asquith makes an unlikable character very likable, and that's a skill.
Oh, that is nail on the head there, Colin. I cannot agree with you more. And he actually tells stories about other people who turned it down. There's a list of really good actors who turned it down. And when he does that, and you hear, who he's sort of half tongue-in-cheek, this guy turned it down, and I was the last one they came to. But I look at that list and think nobody would have done it better than him in those. I haven't seen any of the others. I really haven't. I've only seen Confessions of a Window Cleaner. And to work with, he was in that little scene that I had with him. He was so lively and so, again, it was very good to work off, in fact. And as I say, I think he's underrated. But, you can cut this bit out because he just doesn't need any more praise in his life.
He's in a really good little horror film called Horror Hospital that was made in the 70s.
Yes.
Yeah, he's excellent in that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Confessions? Looking back on it now, in this, I mean, it's the kind of film that kind of gets overlooked a little bit now in these kind of PC days that we're in.
Well, I think at the time it was probably my even later my least favourite film really of mine. Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I don't like my performance much in it, to be honest. It was very much. I didn't really enjoy it, and I don't enjoy seeing it. I'm talking about myself really here, and I'm. That's how I feel about it. I mean, again, it was just a job. At the time, I seemed to be incredibly busy. I seemed to be doing various things. I was probably doing a couple of commercials. I was also filming at almost exactly the same time a couple of days on Percy's Progress, and they were both being filmed at Elstree. So it seemed I was buzzing up and down to Elstree doing this bit and that bit, and it seemed quite enjoyable, very much a sort of enjoyable jobbing actress sort of activity. But I didn't really enjoy it, not for any real reason. I mean, I got on very well with Val Guest, and I can't remember whether it was before or after, but he employed me on a little bit in The Adventurer, the television thing. And I thought everybody was quite nice. There was something horrible that happened. I shouldn't really mention it. You can cut it out. But after I got home, and I lived in my little house in Hackney in East London, there were a few horrible phone calls, and you didn't have a mobile phone in those days. There were a few what they call dirty phone calls, and it was clearly from somebody who'd been on the set because they were able to specify various things, and that left a very bad taste in my mouth really, and I just it made it feel horrible, that somebody, one of the members of the crew, I think it was. First of all, he had my phone number, which would only be on the call sheet. And he was mentioned. I've never mentioned this before. It's probably a bit sort of not very nice, really. It wasn't very nice at the time, and I remember being quite upset about it.
Do
Especially,
you think that clouded your opinion of the film as well, looking back on it?
Probably it did. Yeah. It sort of came, I think it did. I've only just thought about this, but I think it did, yeah, definitely.
Well, I quite like the film. It makes me chuckle. So
no, that's what it's for. That's what it's for.
Colin knows my sense of humour. So
Yes, I do.
You mentioned PC. I mean, I'm all for PC, and people don't need to know this either. But I mean, I just think it just means being kind to people and about people, being politically correct. But I've always said this right from the start, because it was in the 70s, and I was quite a sort of political. I have political thoughts, as I always have done, and I felt that the women were the ones that were taking advantage of this young innocent boy all the time. So it wasn't him taking advantage of all these women, which is what some people think it is. It's not at all.
Right.
Each episode is the woman seducing him.
Yeah.
Him being a bit bemused about it. So it is quite from that point of view, it is a feminist film.
Paul and I have always argued the point that if you watch a lot of the Carry On films, the female characters are stronger, more intelligent, and more in control than any of the male characters.
There you go. Yes, that's probably right.
Yes, that is definitely true.
That's probably right. It's a shame they were paid so much less, apparently. Apparently, the women actors in it were paid much less.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
It is on record, I think, as that's the case.
Yeah, that's still something that female actors are dealing with today, though, isn't it?
Of course they are. They are. Perhaps less so in the last couple of years, since a few famous women have taken a stance against it. Yes, they are. Exactly.
Just touching on something that you said a little bit earlier about sexuality in films and that kind of thing. You did do a lot of nude or semi-nude roles, moments in films that you did. At the time, did you ever feel that was exploitative or felt perfectly natural?
Strange. It's difficult to know whether my view has been clouded since. But my point of view now is that Glenda Jackson, Vanessa Redgrave, Helen Mirren, even Judi Dench, all in the 70s did nude scenes. It was
they're all very strong.
It was normal.
Yeah.
You know what we didn't count on? I mean, I didn't ever really like it very much. I was always vaguely shy, I think. You were always really glad that the wardrobe, they usually had a closed set. They're not closed enough, obviously, after my experience on Confessions of a Window Cleaner. They usually did have a very minimal crew. And there was always a wardrobe mistress with the dressing gown standing right there. You could see her. And as soon as the director called cut, she'd rush in and wrap a gown around you. But what you didn't count on, and what none of these people counted on, even these sort of dames and people that took their clothes off, was the internet and the fact that you could freeze now and keep it forever.
Yes.
The nude scenes. And nobody ever thought of that. It was going to be a flash, quick flash. This, it wasn't going to be seen. Nobody ever really thought that it would be out there for the rest of your life for everybody to see.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing, isn't it? Because looking back on it, as you said, they were jobs as well, and you wanted to move on to that job.
The climate was much different. The other thing was absolutely on holiday, which I went on, to various parts of Italy and France during the 70s, and everybody was topless on the beaches. They were walking around, all shapes and all sizes. It was a curious thing because it doesn't happen now. But it did then. All the women seemed to be perfectly happy and uncoy about it all. Whereas, as I said before, I've got 2 young daughters and they would die rather than do that on a beach.
Yeah.
These days. I mean, people are much shyer now than they were. It was a 70s thing, I think. It was sort of free love. If you look at all those you look at Woodstock, you look at all those sort of free love things. You look at all the Summer of Love 1967 films. You look at concerts and outdoor concerts, and people are completely nude quite often. That wouldn't happen now.
It's funny how times change and sensibilities change. Like that.
Yes, sensibility is exactly right.
So after that, then you did a couple of TV roles. You did things like Shelley and Dead of Night, but then you did what was kind of a precursor to the slasher genre.
Shelley wasn't Shelley, actually. Shelley was a BBC film about the poet Shelley. With Robert
By Percy Shelley.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of that sort of. I think it's ITV's Howell Bennett thing, wasn't that?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a really classy thing to do. Actually, that was a fantastically classy thing to do because we went and filmed it in the exact spot in the Shelley's house in Le Ricci in Italy, and that was an amazing job to do. Just incidentally, I mean, it's one of the high points of my life, filming the life of Shelley.
Do you think it helped that you'd done roles where you were in period costume? Do you think that helped to get you the part? Or
what's weird about that is that Alan Bridges wanted us all to wear sort of modern hippie clothes, long clothes.
Right.
But, I mean, we were all a bit hippie-ish in it. It's not been shown much, but we're all wearing. I'm wearing a sort of long sort of thing you might have bought in, probably did buy in Kensington Market, and Jenny Agutter similarly. So it was a sort of it was not an accurate period thing, but everybody was wearing velvets and sort of hippie things really. So it was a bit out. No, I don't think it did. I definitely got that from a recommendation from the casting director.
I'll be completely honest with you, Judy. I haven't seen it. I haven't been able to find it. So
nobody's seen it. Actually, I mean, I shouldn't. I'm really being a bit frank here, but actually, I got a copy of it, and it does go on a bit. It's a bit boring, but it's beautifully shot, and it was a privilege to do it.
You did The House That Vanished, which is kind of a precursor to the slasher genre.
Yes, it was really. Yes. Yes. Yeah. What was there something? Was I seeing something about that today? Oh no, I put something up. That's right, on my fan page, I put something up about The House That Vanished. But what's interesting about it is, I won't go into that now, but the two Forbes Robertsons are confusing everybody. There's two actors, Forbes Robertson, but don't tell anybody. But what was weird is when they're talking, the guys, my lovely friends on that fan page, are talking about the film. It comes up 3 titles: Scream and Die, The House That Vanished, and Don't Go in the Bedroom. And Don't Go in the Bedroom is the one that's never used, and that's much the best title, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, The House That Vanished is such a boring title.
It doesn't really make sense to what happens in the movie either.
No, The House That Vanished. I mean, sounds like some sort of documentary. It's a very dreary title. Who's going to go and watch a film called The House That Vanished? Let's go down the pictures and see The House That Vanished.
Apparently in Spain it's called Scream and Die.
Yes, I think it's also in America it's called that. I'm not sure. But even that's a bit odd because it's sort of nothing. I think it comes from Larraz not being English. So he's not, not really got the title, not really got... Because neither of those, Scream and Die, could be any film in the world, and The House That Vanished, whereas Don't Go in the Bedroom seems to me to be quite exciting.
Yeah. Although I am seeing on IMDb, which is not always accurate, it says here, USA alternative title, Psycho Sex Fiend.
Now that's the one. Let's go for that one. I can't quite understand.
Who's not going to go and see that?
I actually don't think I've ever seen this film. I don't think I've ever seen it. And I don't know, I mean, I can't remember the storyline at all. I mean, I just can't remember what happens in it at all.
Well, you do suffer through quite an uncomfortable looking, long drawn out strangulation scene.
Yes, that's right. And that, of course, I remember very, very well. And I remember the discussions about that, and I remember Larraz, and I remember all about that. But I don't remember all the business of going in a house and not going in a house, and I remember when I watched it, and I was supposed to be dead, and I was the flatmate, and yet the Andrea Allen character just happily carries on with her life. And seems to be not in the slightest bit bothered. It's not a very good movie, is it? It's not a very good movie, but it's my least favourite anyway of all the directors that I worked with. And this I've said before. I haven't met an actress. Well, I haven't met that many actually, but I met one recently. A very, very nice woman at one of these film things. I'm confused by her name now. She did, I think, Vampires with Larraz, the main leading lady in that. Now, I better not name her because she might not want me to say, but she did say she hadn't enjoyed working with him. And somebody else, one of my very good friends, also didn't enjoy working with him in a different film. And as I say, I haven't met an actress who enjoyed working with Larraz at all.
It is a strange, very sort of pedestrian film. I mean, you're very good in it, Judy, but don't get me wrong. But
Paul, I don't think I have very much to do in it.
Your death scene is spectacular.
Yes, but it's in the dark. Isn't it in the dark?
It's kind of in the dark. Yeah.
a bit in the dark. That was that I remember. What I remember mainly from that, with Larraz wanting more and more, and nothing had been discussed. But the cinematographer guy was just a joy, and I wish I could remember his name. He was so kind, and he was so flattering to me to make me feel better. Kept telling me about, how well it was working, and that's what I remember from filming that thing. It was how unpleasant the director was, and how very, very kind and pleasant the cinematographer was. The sort of contrast between them.
It must be very difficult to work with a director that you just don't get along with.
Yes, it was. He's the only one, really. He really is the only one. And I didn't not get along with him. I just had no respect for him, really. And also, I tend to think he didn't have very much respect for his actors, at least his actresses, anyway.
Yeah, sure. That kind of translates onto the screen when you watch the movie, I have to say.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes.
Yeah. Pick up on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody pointed out when I said something like this, probably on Twitter or somewhere, somebody sent me a picture of his autobiography where he's on the front, standing, looking very, very brave and wonderful, and he's going to fight all the wolves. But on the floor is a woman lying, and he's got one foot on her. And I thought that image just completely sums him up, and how he thought that was a good thing to do. Goodness knows. The only thing is, talking like this, I don't think it matters now, especially after all these years, but he has a huge following and a lot of fans.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think we've mentioned him by name, so if people want to look him up, they can. So.
That's true. Have we not mentioned him by name?
I don't think you mentioned his name, really, no. Which is fine. But you talk about directors that you had little respect for. Isn't there a story that you walked out of an audition for Stanley Kubrick?
Yes, but I didn't know it was Stanley. I mean, I knew it was Stanley Kubrick, but I didn't know he was going to become the great big thing that he did. I don't regret it particularly, because I felt, again, it was as well as all this nudity, it was incredibly feminist in the 70s, which I was completely sympathetic with. I think it's called the second phase of feminism, or second stage or something, and Germaine Greer and everything. So you did think of your rights, and I knew the casting director, and he just you went in there and he asked you to strip down to your underwear and put on a dressing gown and go into the film, and the director wasn't there because he wouldn't fly. So he'd film it and send it to the director. Now, these days, they do that all the time. So I'm sure they film and they video. Well, I suppose they film and video auditions all the time. They get sent to the directors. But at the time, it was completely unheard of for a film to be made of you, particularly in your underwear. And I'm not entirely sure they didn't ask you to take your bra off. And then it was going to be flown over the Atlantic, and I said no. I said, I'm sorry. It was a bit grand of me considering the films that I did do, but I thought it was really shocking that he wasn't bothering to be there. And the film of all these young women were going to be sent over to him didn't seem right to me at all. So I walked out, said to the casting director, who I knew really well, I've forgotten his name, really nice guy, very good casting director, obviously for Kubrick. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not doing this. I went home, got on the phone and rang Equity and said, there's this director in America is asking for nude pictures or semi-nude pictures of girls. I don't know what they did, but I mean, I look back and think, my goodness, it was Kubrick. I mean, I don't regret it for a minute. But
I don't think I would have done it either, Judy. I don't think I would have stripped down to my underwear for him either.
I'm not sure he would have asked.
Good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
So then you returned to TV, and you did a lot of roles in things like the Sweeney, Egg Cars, Professionals. Blake, so my favourite of all of them is the role that you did in Citizen Smith.
Oh right, yes, that's got a lot of coverage, hasn't it? I mean, people. Yes, Mike Grady, who's a fabulous actor. Again, he did come and meet and chat for the Misty Moon Film Society, and when I went along to that, he told me that episode of Citizen Smith was the most popular of the series, apparently.
You must have enjoyed it playing because you're kind of playing the upper class mean girl, aren't you?
I did enjoy it. I was actually, I was a bit anxious. I was a bit nervous, and I think you can tell that. I think there's a point in that end scene where I sort of lose my lines, and I can see it in the end scene. I'd just come off the stage. I'd been doing something. I'd done an Acorn play in Crucible at Sheffield. And I came straight down and started rehearsals, which was not very long. I think it was only a week for that Citizen Smith. And I think it gets a lot of approbation, and I'm gratified. But I remember when I got in front of the audience to record it, and it was a big audience in White City, I think I felt at the time I had overreacted to the audience and was overacting like I was on the stage. That's what I felt. I've never said this to anybody before. Well, I think I said it to my friends who were in the audience. I suddenly sort of responded to this audience and started sort of overacting like I was on the stage, as I had been just a couple of weeks before. But looking at it now, it doesn't actually look like that, so it's fine.
No, not at all. No, it's a great part, and you do it very well.
Yeah, and the wonderful writer, what's that writer's name, that wonderful writer? Only Fools and Horses. John Sullivan.
That's him, yeah.
John Sullivan had asked for me for that part. So, because he'd seen me do a similar part, Posh Lady in Crossroads, posh young woman, and he'd asked for me. And so when I went to see the director of that, the director didn't know who I was at all, but he said, John Sullivan wants you for this, so I'm afraid that's it. You've got to be offered the part. I remember him saying that. So I did. I felt, again, I was really, really gratified about that. The wonderful John Sullivan, who was just one of the best comedy writers ever, had actually just asked for me to do the part.
Yeah, that must have been nice.
And
it's always nice.
It must be nice to have your little parts in great iconic series like The Professionals and The Sweeney and Z-Cars as well.
I know, they're all so small, those little things, but they're all great to do. Again, jobbing actress, you just turned up in your little yellow Mini, or you got a car come and collect you, depending on where it was, and you just did it. And it is amazing, and I do sort of the professional sort of shows to talk to people with groups of people from The Professionals and from the Sweeney. Yeah, it's great in retrospect. At the time, it was just jobbing actress. I enjoyed them all. I did enjoy both of those particularly. The Z-Cars doesn't get shown very much, except just recently, and you might know this. It's been put suddenly on YouTube. But generally speaking, they haven't been shown at all. But I just love doing both of those. 2 years apart, I think. Yeah.
I have to say, your scene in The Professionals does not look comfortable, though.
Oh, it was perfectly comfortable.
Was it? Because well, then they filmed it really well, because I couldn't tell whether it was studio or actually in a building site. But obviously, you're gagged and tied up, and there's dust everywhere.
It was in the building site. It was on location.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah, but it was a huge pleasure. I turned up to. What happened with that? And it's quite a complicated story, but I think they filmed some of it with another actress, the same episode. But for some reason, they had to do reshoots, and she couldn't do the reshoots, something like that. That's how the story goes. And so they had to get another actress in to do it again. So I was sort of drafted in at the last minute, and I turned up at the green room, the place they were using as a green room, and there was my wonderful friend Roger Lloyd Pack, who I'd known for years and years and years, and he was sitting there, and he was the villain, and they were shooting 2 episodes back to back because of this reshoot business, and so they were very, very busy, and it was wonderful to see Roger there and to work with him. I'd never worked with him before, so it was great. I loved it, and then be picked up by gorgeous lady. And be carried by him. It was a joy. Lovely. I loved doing it.
Nice.
Loved doing both of them.
Yeah, Colin's a big fan of those shows.
Yeah,
I am too, actually.
So then in 1979, you did what must have been quite a big decision in your life to go to Nairobi.
Yes, yes, it was. I met this boy, and within a few within a few dates going out with this boy, he said, "Do you want to drive through Africa?" He had an old, battered, short wheelbase Land Rover, really old and battered. And I said, "Yeah, let's do that." I can't believe that I did that, really, because, for so many reasons. But actually, the sheer danger of it was amazing. But we planned it for a long time, or he planned it, I should say, worked it all out where we would go. You can't go everywhere in Africa because of wars and various things, various boundary, borders being shut. It was all planned, and we did it, and we drove, and it took us about 6 months. Sometimes there wasn't even a road where we were going, and we were camping by the side of, the Land Rover, and it was an extraordinary adventure. It was a huge adventure. It was quite intrepid, but I didn't know that at the time. And then we got to Nairobi. We weren't going to go any further south because of the apartheid in South Africa. We didn't want to go into South Africa, so we stayed in Nairobi, whereby the boy, who was a dental surgeon, thought he'd get work there because it's easy to pick up work. But he couldn't find work at all there. But I wandered into the theatre and was immediately offered 3 months' work in the theatre because their leading lady had got ill. It was a proper little theatre that had equity abroad contracts, and they'd have a company of actors for a year. They'd contract them for a year, and the leading lady had got sick at the last minute, so they were in dire difficulties. So they didn't even, they didn't interview me or anything. I just said I was an actress. I said, "Oh, will you do some acting?" Which I did. It was an absolute joy.
That's wonderful. It's very romantic.
Yeah, it is amazing, yes. The dental surgeon is sitting downstairs. Been told not to come into this room for the moment. So reader, I married him.
No, the leading lady that got sick, that you took the position of, it wasn't dental problems, was it, by any chance?
Who knows? I can't remember. Maybe it was. Who knows? Yeah, maybe it was. I wonder where she is now.
Yes. And how long were you out there then?
In Nairobi, about 3 months, I think.
About 3 months?
About 3 months. I actually stopped in Nairobi, yes.
It must have been a wonderful experience there.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. It was amazing. It was sort of bizarre. This funny little English-speaking repertory company in the middle of Nairobi. But it was, the actors all stayed in the theatre. They all had very, very nice rooms with the ensuite and very nice. And I was given one. I loved the actors that were there. Although most of the actors, the main actors were all equity on contracts. A lot of the other actors were sort of local people who, not even proper actors, sort of amateurs who wanted to take part. So it was a huge. The first thing I did was a Ray Cooney farce, which was amazing. It was quite an extraordinary thing.
Were the other actors aware of what you'd done?
I don't know. But what was interesting is I got to know one of the local journalists was a guy called Nigel Slade. He used to review all the shows, and he was very interested. I've still got somewhere copies of his interviews with me about what I had done. And so he took a lot of notice of it, and it was in the local paper. But I suppose they must have known. We all, actors can be very boring with their long, boring stories about their work. And I'm sure I was as boring as everybody else. So they would have known what I'd done.
So then you came back in the early 80s and you began a new phase in your career as a continuity announcer. So what brought you to that decision?
It sort of fell into my lap again. Somebody said to me, they're looking for somebody, and you'd be ideal. So I went down to talk to a guy called Peter Pritchard Brown, who was just starting up he wasn't starting up. He was already part of Southern Television, but there was a new franchise, Television South, and they were looking for some new announcers. And they were particularly looking for a trainee announcer. They could make their own TVS announcer. So they trained me for a few months. I think it was 2 months. And then, I was trained on the job, and then I stayed there for about 4 or 5 years. Yes, that was very different I had decided that I didn't really want to do any more frivolous stuff. I was looking for a change, really, after this enormous trip through Africa. I was looking for a change, and it just fell into my lap.
Do you think that's what it was? It was the trip to Africa that
yes, I do. I do. The focus had changed. My focus had changed. Yes, I do. Well, just that it was all fortuitous, it happened. It just happened. I mean, otherwise, the other thing that was on the cards, instead of was a summer season in somewhere, Bournemouth somewhere, which I wouldn't have minded doing. I think my agent had put me up for that and said they want you to do it. But then this continuity announcing, I thought this sounded really interesting. I always love using my voice, especially now, as I've said to you, I don't want to be in vision. I like using my voice, but also the money was so good. I mean, compared with being an actor, which you do get very good money as an actor, but it's not regular. Yeah. Whereas this continuity announcing with this new franchise, it was the richest company in Britain, ITV company in Britain, and they offered a fortune, as far as I was concerned, a monthly check. So that was all very nice down in Southampton. And I presume at this point you were ready to sort of settle down and start a family, and that must have been a factor as well. Possibly it was. The thing is, it took place in Southampton. We were filming, we were recording everything, not recording, actually live television, obviously, but in Southampton. So I was down there for a week, and then I'd come back for 3 days and then go back down there for a week. So it wasn't really settling down. There wasn't a lot of settling down. And it was an extraordinary job, actually, continuity announcing, because it's sort of hours and hours of tedium and boredom, all these weird television shows and nothing to do, punctuated by moments of complete panic when the director, the presentation director, would say, "Judy, we've lost the break. Can you talk for 3 minutes until the next program comes on?" And you'd always have something prepared. You'd have something roughly prepared, but it was extremely nerve-wracking. So it was a weird job. So so as you say, you had things prepared. What, for example, what did you have? What would you talk about? The normal thing would be, I mean, it doesn't happen anymore. They don't lose commercial breaks like they did. It's all very different because things came down from Granada and they were coming down what they said I was never very technical, but come down the line from Granada and they say, "Oh, we've lost the feed. You've got to talk. You've got to do this." They throw it at you, and terrible for your vision, I can tell you. I mean, but we weren't in vision. I think we were in vision for the first couple of years. But there was always sort of, "Well, I've just got a couple of minutes to tell you about tomorrow night's programs." And then you'd go through the TV Times and say, "Well, tomorrow at 8:00 is the Sweeney," followed by, and then you'd have an earpiece in, and if they still hadn't got what they were supposed to be getting, you'd then turn, and then I've got a little bit of extra time to tell you about Wednesday night's television, and you just drone on like that. It's never my forte. Some of the announcers, mainly the men announcers, were terribly good at doing all that. I do remember things like that happening, actually. I'm sure you do as well, Colin, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Breaking down. They don't happen anymore. It just doesn't happen. But I don't think the feeds go down lines anymore. I think it's all centralised.
But recently, you've made a return to acting.
Loosely speaking, I would say. Very loosely speaking. Not really. No.
No, you did the short spoof Frankula, which
that was fun. Yes, that was fun.
Yes,
I was surprised by that because I didn't. Again, I've got this thing now. I've got so much older that I don't really want to be in front of the camera. But the Misty Moon Film Society, we're producing it, and I think the tipping point for me was Caroline Munro being in it. I thought, she can do it, I can do it. And I love her, and I didn't really know her very well. I knew her a little bit, but I've got to know her much better now. And she's, everybody says how wonderful she is. Well, she just is. She's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, as well as being one of the most gorgeous. So I said I'd do it. So we just had fun on that. It was a couple of days, actually. Caroline being Caroline and being so busy, she could only do 1 day, but the rest of us did 2 days. And it was huge fun. So that was fun. And yes, and that was good.
It definitely comes across in the film that you're all having a good time.
Oh, my goodness, you saw it.
I have seen it, yes.
Yeah, well, we were having a good time. Yes, it was fun. Fun, and also I was a bit sort of nervous. I am a bit nervous if I have to do any of this sort of thing. I was a bit anxious, but actually the way they shot it, and this wonderful guy who's the director and film, the guy, film operator, a camera operator, who's since become my friend. His name's Jason Reed, and he's incredibly inventive and incredibly clever. And he sort of made it up as he went along, and he made you very, very relaxed about it. And although I must say, quite anxious, I do get quite anxious about any sort of acting thing these days. It was just most enjoyable, and I wasn't anxious at all when it came to it. One of the things I did have difficulties with is the teeth, the vampire teeth. Because they had this really good special effects guy come with the teeth, and he came and tried to get them in, but I had been forbidden by a certain person in my life, who I mentioned earlier, to use any sort of proper glue on my teeth, because it would, it would ruin my beautiful teeth. So that was a bit of difficulty. I had to stick my vampire teeth in with chewing gum.
Oh,
it didn't work very well.
Well, telling us it doesn't break the spell, Judy. It's fine.
I don't think you ever really get a good look at my vampire teeth, because I just can hardly open my mouth because of the chewing gum. Other people, Caroline, Emma Dark, another lovely young lady who has vampire teeth, they didn't worry about the glue that they had to have over their teeth. They didn't have dental surgeons breathing down their necks saying, "Don't do it, don't do it."
What was it, just out of curiosity, that made you decide to want to act again?
Yeah, just that it came up. And Stuart Morris and Jen Morris, who run the Misty Moon Film Society, were going to do it, and they said, "Would you do it?" And then they said Caroline was doing it, and it all seemed just enormous fun, and they're incredibly nice, and everything. And what I was amazed about, as I mentioned Jason Reed earlier, it was how professional the shoot was. Actually, it was done in an incredibly professional way. Very, very efficient. And that I was very, very impressed by it. But I mean, I think it was just Stuart and Jen and Jason Reed sort of saying, "Do this, it'll be fun." And my thinking, I'll take a bit of a risk. But as it turned out, it wasn't really a risk at all. It was just 2 days of fun.
It is very funny, and it does make me chuckle as well. So
That's good. That's good.
And of course, you've got The Haunting of Margam Castle due to come out, haven't you?
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
Which I'm very intrigued by.
Yes, I'm quite intrigued by it. I am too. Yes, yeah. No, I don't really know what that. What? Yes, I don't know what I can't remember quite what the story is, but it looks very exciting. And the guys are lovely there. They're unbelievable. Those guys from Wales. Andrew Jones, the director, producer, incredibly efficient. His turnover is enormous. They go straight to streaming and DVD. Very efficient, very high quality. Everything incredibly professional. And they were a joy to work with. I only did a day. I've only got a couple of lines, actually.
Did you film at the castle?
No, I didn't. They did. They did. And they were lovely filming, I believe, but they had to do it at night, so it's freezing cold. And some of the people were quite frightened because it's haunted, but because it's open to the public during the day. So Jane Merrow, Darren Nesbitt, the crew, and some other actors were filming in the castle. We didn't. Caroline and I were sort of in a slightly extra film, filming in a pub. I mean, we were literally in a pub. She was the barmaid and I was a customer. And so it was a sort of extra little scene, possibly put in just to accommodate us. So we weren't filming in the castle, but the castle looked wonderful to film in. And they were filming right through the night.
I've been there, actually.
Have you?
I'm quite intrigued. I did this is probably very, very boring for you, but I did a ghost vigil there, overnight ghost vigil about 2 years ago, like a ghost hunt type
that's
thing.
Amazing. Did you see anything? Did you see any ghosts?
Yes. I didn't see any ghosts, but I was pushed through a doorway twice when there was no one behind me.
That can't be true. How wonderful.
It's true. It's true. It's really true. Yeah.
How extraordinary.
I can see. Well, I'm kind of I'm kind of a skeptic on all of this kind of thing, considering that I love horror movies and things like that. But
How can
so
you be a skeptic if it actually happened to you? I mean, I'm a complete skeptic too, but if I was suddenly pushed through a doorway, I think you'd have to stop being a skeptic, wouldn't you?
He'd been drinking.
Well, the first time. Oh no, I hadn't.
Yes, what were you taking?
No, I was perfectly sober at the time, and the first time it happened, I was with a friend, and we both got pushed through the door. And then the second time it happened, it was just me, and that was enough to make me think, okay, there's something going on here.
I mean, I always wonder when people talk about ghosts, you think, well, why would a ghost bother to push you through a door? Why?
It's picking on me. That's what it's doing.
Scary. How scary.
So are we going to see you in anything else after this?
No. I've never really made plans. I mean, all this sort of chat for hours and hours and hours I've been droning on, but I've never really made plans for the future, ever. And what have we got now? We've got this lockdown, so we're waiting to see. And no, you won't see me. I'm not up for acting jobs really, but if something like The Haunting of Margam Castle came by and it was just a couple of little lines and cameo and fun, because there is nothing like being on a film set for having fun and enjoying it. I love it. I love the camaraderie. People are always so lovely. It's just lovely. So if somebody comes up with 2 or 3 lines, maybe.
Yeah, start writing.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, Judy. We really appreciate it.
Yes, it's a pleasure. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. We can chat offline anytime you like, because you're fun boys to talk to.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to listen to your stories. Yeah.
And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
In our next episode, we'll be back to a normal service with an old TV or film review. And if you'd like to suggest one, then you could email your suggestion to retrospection@email.com. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter at Retrospecky, and on Instagram at Retrospection Podcast, all one word. And please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen. You could also hear the themes and songs from the films and shows we review at our Spotify playlist. And finally, if you'd like to support our old episodes and help new ones coming along, then you can lower our server costs by supporting us via patreon.com/retrospection. Thank you to our current Patreon supporters, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.